Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Shahab Karni from Television I-95 Washington Studios. Welcome. As you can see, the flyer, the promo, the poster says why I'm inclined towards Republicans. In the state of Maryland, which predominantly we are located, I live in state of Maryland. My guest, which I'm going to introduce to you shortly, also is a resident of the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland, as we speak, seems to be one party rule, one party governance, 3-1 ratio of the vote bank. Out of eight, one congressman, and few jurisdiction like counties predominantly elected or majority councils are Republicans. Very unfortunate one party rule, not good for governance, not good for public policy. Very bad, very unfortunate. Having said that, I have a guest, Mr. Shahid Mahmud, and I'm going to bring to him right now. Mr. Shahid, welcome to my studio, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So kind of you.
So, among all the majority of the other side, you have, in my conversation with you, you have shown inclinations towards Republican Party and their ideals, their platform issues. Shahid, tell me why.
If you remember, President Reagan was once asked that why did you change? You were once a Democrat. Why did you become a Republican? So he said that I was a Democrat. I didn't leave the Democratic Party. Democratic Party left me.
Interesting.
In this instance, it's the opposite. We as Pakistani Americans, we were Republicans for a long, long time. It is very well known that Republicans were usually pro-Pakistani and Democrats were pro-India. There's a long history of that before 2000, before 9/11, I would say. So what happened was after 9/11 and the 2003 war, Pakistanis and Muslims in general became Democrats kind of overnight. So community left me. I stayed where I was in the Republican Party because my affiliation or my liking of the party was not based upon something which was as perfunctory as Iraq War or 9/11 or something of that nature. It was more on principles. Which party has values? Which party is pro free market? That would be my answer if that is sufficient.
So, tell us about your background. When did you come to America, and what's the trajectory of your career?
I was an Air Force pilot from 1975 to 1980 or 81, something like that. And I left Pakistan Air Force to become a commercial pilot, which most of the pilots, unless some gets very high in rank and they get promoted, then they retire and then they just drift away. Most in middle of their career leave Air Force and either start something else or become commercial pilot. So I came to US to get a commercial license and then become an airline pilot. But once I got here and then my wife followed me, we kind of realized that being an airline pilot mean that I would be home rarely. And additionally, I was finding it kind of hard to find a job. I mean, I could see my seniors sitting on the bench and not finding a job as an airline pilot. So I decided to changed my career completely and went to first University of Texas, then Texas State University, and I did my second bachelor's in computer science. Initially, I worked for a company for a few years. I was sponsored to become a U.S. resident. From there on, then I had my own business for a while when I used to do consulting, would travel around the US. I have worked for various government agencies, US Navy, US Army, HUD, and so on and so forth. And sometime around 2006 or 7, I found that consulting is becoming kind of hard to land going forward. So I decided to take a full-time job, and Lockheed Martin picked me up, which is an irony because the last plane I flew in Pakistan Air Force was a Lockheed Martin C-130.
Okay, Shahid, tell me one thing, and this is, I mean, I'm sure we have never talked that what I'm going to ask you is a very candid conversation today, and maybe some truth, which may be very inconvenient for some of the viewers. Republican Party, I mean, the inclination towards the Republican Party, especially from the perspective of new Americans, they say, or there's a perception, it's a party of racist white people, white males. They dominate the party platform. What are you going to say about it?
First of all, I think this is, in my view, it is a baloney. I mean, there might be a grain of truth here and there, but I have lived in this country for about 40 years, and I have lived in Deep South. I used to sell encyclopedias in small towns in Texas, and I would knock on the doors. Till this day, I have not have not had an incident where somebody made any kind of racial remark towards me, to me, uh, or the treatment was of that nature, or anything of that kind. Never, never once. I give you an example. In Texas, while I was going to school in Austin, I remember I was working one evening, and this drunk guy, he was drunk, plus he also was on drugs. He came and started fighting with me because he wanted me to give him something without ID and so on and so forth. And I tried very hard to push him away and all that. And finally, I had to call the police. The policeman came. This is Austin, Texas, I'm talking about, in 1983, probably. And he said to me, "Man, you're pretty, strong. Why didn't you take care of him? Why didn't you beat him up because he was doing this to you?" So, I mean, far from seeing personally any kind of racism, I have seen white people in South being very, very kind to me. I have absolutely, I mean, there is no bone in me which has any, what you call that, room for this discussion. Now, it's quite possible that, if you go into organization, you go to a certain setup, and there is something which might kind of, trouble me, but I don't believe this in general. Plus, you can see there are people now in Republican Party, Candace Owen. Just now, a lady from Haiti became lieutenant governor of
In
Virginia.
Virginia,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Colin Powell was our Secretary of State for a long
Condoleezza
many
Rice.
years ago.
Yeah.
Condoleezza Rice. I mean, it's just, I think it's more of a perception which the media has, peddled for all these years, because it suits their narrative.
Just to add to something on you, in the recent congressional races, uh, close to 20 women from the Republican platform they got into House.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, so Shahid, in social interaction in different community meetings, I have seen you. coming up with very intense, um, powerful argument in favor of the Republican agenda versus the Democratic Party. Why it is so?
It's because number one, I read quite a bit. Um my favorite reading every day is even though I could read Wall Street Journal online, but I deliberately get the print edition because I just want to lock myself away in sunroom or somewhere. I just want, and I start from the back. I look at the editorial first and the op-eds, and then I go back to the first page, and then go to section A. And the reason I do that is because I do not react to events. I I look at the trends, where things are going, and that's why my observations are usually based upon trends and the possibilities rather than okay, this is what happened yesterday. You know, we do see ourselves in life. How things are. I mean, I came in 1981. Where country is today and how freedom of expression is under threat by the Democratic Party and the left wing is unbelievable. It is absolutely, absolutely. I did not. I thought, oh, there are two parties and they have difference of opinion. They have different, objectives and different. But to use FBI and go after people because of their views, this is mind-boggling. It's really mind-boggling. No, I know I have studied that in history there has been cases where government has gone after individuals for one or the other reason. But last 10, 15 years, it has gone from bad to worse. Now it is far more possible that you would be chased by the federal government, which was, rare and would probably not spoken about. Now it is out in the open. You would hear in the news that somebody's house was ready at 6 o'clock in the morning. What? For what? Oh, Biden's daughter's diary got lost. So FBI is chasing somebody for that. Things are changing, and that worries me.
So, Shahid, my final question is, looking at your views and passion about the Republican ideals, any future plan for run for any elected office by yourself?
Definitely, is I'm inclined, but I'm also debating whether I would be more effective being a speaker through either a radio or podcast, where I can go and talk to people around the country and give. I have a story to tell. How I came. I came with $700 to this country, and I know where I am today. So that's one track, one path. The other path is legislative. I get into politics and elections, and my only concern with elections is that I do not want to compromise on my principle. One of our community elders stopped me in a restaurant and then said, Shahid, what I like about you is that you always speak your mind. And that's the kind of person I am, and I'm sure you know that. And so when I think about going into politics, it kind of worries me. Would I have to compromise on my ideas and my principles and what I think is good for this country, good for me, and good for society in general? But yes, I'm definitely very interested in pursuing some sort of legislative path as well, as going forward.
Well, Shahid, thank you very much. This was interesting and intriguing, and definitely we'll keep the conversation in coming weeks with you. So, God bless you and God bless America. Thank you.
Absolutely. God bless America. Thank you.